Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another live Engadget podcast stream. I'm Senior Editor Devindra Hardwar. This morning, I'm joined with Senior Editor Jessica Condit. Hey, Jess.
Hello.
Hello. Jess is popping in to talk about some games, and podcast producer Ben Ellman. Hey, Ben.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning to people in the chat. I see. Thank you all. I'm sorry we started a little late, just to give Jess a little more time. Although you tricked me, Jess. Jess is actually in New York, and normally Jess is in Arizona. It's okay. It's totally fine. Hello, Mark Dell. Hello, Peter Lee. Hello, Dave Sanders and Chooch and Skilled Buyer. Mark Dell has been playing Jedi Survivor, as have I. You've had time to beat it. That's great. How are you guys doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty
Sorry,
well.
I was getting my layout set up. This is new podcast for me. I haven't been doing this very often, so I'm very excited to get in here.
Awesome. New podcast room for Jess out of New York. Hello, everybody in the chat. Christoph Howard, George Morgan. We will be talking about Redfall and whatever the hell happened to Redfall and Jedi Survivor, which seems like rocky start, especially for reviewers, but has evened out a little bit, at least in my testing. And there's a whole bunch of news, and we'll even talk about like how we'll talk about the WGA strike, because that is actually relevant to what we cover. There's AI involved there's streaming, so stay tuned for that. And sit tight, folks. We'll try to do some Q&A in between everything. If you're joining us for the first time, we are recording the audio podcast, so we don't typically see what's happening on the chat, but we'll take some breaks, and then we'll talk to you guys.
Okay, so chat, if you have stuck around, if this is not your first time watching, you know what's about to happen. If you don't, if this is your first time watching, welcome. And also, something that we do is we try to sync all of our files. So it makes it easier for me to do like audio editing stuff. So I'm going to count down from 3. At the end of 3, everyone on stream is going to clap or snap their fingers. And then we're going to be silent for a little bit. If you want to support us, you can put a clap or like snap fingers, if there is one emoji, in the chat. And be sure to hit that thumbs up button when we're doing the little bit of room tone. So we're going to do, oh, hi. Chris Castillo says that this is their first time watching.
Hello.
So, Chris, we need you to put a clap emoji in the chat more than anyone else. So, counting down from 3, 2, 1, and some silence. Actually, let's try to do that one more time, because I think it was a little asynchronous.
That's fine.
So,
we
3,
need to time this to a clock if we want
2,
to really synchronize it. Yeah.
1. Okay, and some silence. Hit that thumbs up button, anybody who's watching. Okay, silence over. Let's get into it.
Yeah, hit that thumbs up, everybody. Subscribe to the channel. If you want us to see us do some game streams or something, like I'm sure that's something, Jess, you'd love to get back into at some point.
Stream Redfall.
Stream Redfall. Oh my god.
That is not going to be the game.
There are other games. There's a lot of fun stuff coming up.
There are a lot of games.
A lot of games. I'm getting some keys in for things I have not even heard of, but just the pitch from people sounds fun. Okay. Are you guys ready to go?
I am set.
Okay. Let's kick off the main show in 3, 2, 1. What's up, Internet, and welcome back to the Engadget podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devindra Hardwar. This week, I'm joined with Senior Editor Jessica Condit. Hey, Jess, how's it going?
Hello, happy to be here.
Happy to have you. And we're going to be talking about games, of course, because you're the gaming queen at Engadget, Jess. So there's a lot of stuff. There's Redfall, there's Jedi Survivor, there's controversies around these games, and I feel like we're going to see a whole bunch of new titles coming up soon. So you're the perfect person to be on for this episode, Jess. Sit tight, folks. As always, if you're enjoying the show, please be sure to subscribe to the Engadget podcast on iTunes. Leave us a review there too. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Drop us an email at podcast@engadget.com. You can also join us Thursday mornings, typically around 10:30 a.m. Eastern, on our YouTube channel, where we'll do some Q&A, and you can see us show off gadgets sometimes too. So join us; it's a fun time. I want to get right to this, Jess. We have been waiting so freaking long for Redfall, specifically me, the biggest Arcane Studios fan in the world, and this is another high profile release from Microsoft. They do not have many exclusives, especially after the whole Bethesda acquisition and everything. So this game is here. I see your title, good enough for Game Pass. What is up with Redfall, Jess?
First of all, I love that headline.
It's a great
It's
headline.
a sick burn. It's a sick burn on a lot of levels. And yeah, it kind of sums up my feelings. Redfall is kind of tragic in my mind. I was also very much looking forward to this game. When it was first announced, I thought it was actually going to be more like team-based online. I feel like Arcane, they were kind of like pitching it as an online, almost Left 4 Dead with, for the new generation. Like that's what I was expecting. And then the marketing started to pivot and it was like, oh, it's a single player campaign. And by the time we got Redfall, it just wasn't ready for public consumption. Like that's just the final word on it.
And
this game was not
many
done.
delays too. It's not done, even though it's been delayed.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's been delayed a few times, and I think it needed one more big delay, and it would have been at least in a playable form. It wouldn't be getting burned the way that it is. And I feel like that was totally Microsoft's decision. It feels like a decision that came from the top. I think any developer, especially Arcane, they know how to make a good game. Like I like Arcane games a lot. I actually like Deathloop more than I think the average person even.
I love Deathloop.
And
I think Deathloop did not get enough love back when it came out, Jess.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally feel
that. And Arcane Austin is the studio behind Prey mostly. And like Prey is really, really good. So it was just a shock to play a game in this condition that was so buggy. So like the AI is so dumb. The enemies they're barely enemies, honestly, most of the time. It's just like there are good ideas here. You can see Arcane's DNA in this game, and there are moments when it works and it's fine, and it's even a good game.
Can we
but they are
describe
fleeting.
what the game is first of all? So you're playing 4 characters. It's almost class-based, but not quite. They do serve like different roles. 4 characters who are all basically fighting vampires and fighting people, cultists following the vampires. This is the only game I've played where there's a character that has a name close to mine. So I will say props to Arcane for that. There is a character called Devinder, not Devendra, but it's like the Sikh form of a similar name. But I have seen Dev in games. I've seen Indra in games. I've never seen the combined form. So props to this game for that. And he's a YouTube influencer who fights vampires. And you know what? I can relate to that. But you're picking these characters, and there's a single player campaign that feels a lot like, honestly, a lot like Borderlands and those types of games. Where you're going around, you're collecting loot, there are missions. There is a multiplayer co-op component, but from what I've seen, doesn't seem that great too. So how does this compare to like what Arcane has done before, Jess? Like I see the kind of DNA of Dishonored here. I see kind of what was happening in Deathloop, and Deathloop was a really interesting sort of like online competitive type of thing too. Like there was a lot going on in Deathloop that I feel like there's just very little going on here.
Right. So you can kind of see where like Arcane Austin is not the full Arcane studio, right? But there were different Arcane studios working on Deathloop, and then also Arcane Austin is working on this game at the same time. And you can see that, I think, in this like multiplayer online component that they played with in Deathloop, and they really tried to lean into it with Redfall. And like I feel like it makes a lot of sense, like a Borderlands game, but set in a Massachusetts island town, a fictional island town off the coast of Massachusetts. It feels like very like CW show town square, like Pretty Little Liars or something. Like it's all very pretty and
it's weird
charming.
That this comes a couple of years after the show Midnight Mass, which is also about something invading a little island community off the coast of Massachusetts, and similar vibes, very Stephen King vibes at times too. Have you seen that, Jess?
No, I haven't.
I think
I finally watched Devs though, by the way.
Devs
you told me to watch that
Devs
forever ago. And that was good.
But yeah, just slight tangent here. If you guys are interested in this concept and you want to see something cool, Midnight Mass is super cool. And it's one of those shows by Mike Flanagan, who is like freaking an amazing horror director, incredible writer. So Jess, right up your alley.
Cool.
Everybody here, go watch that. I mean, instead of playing this game, maybe. What has been your experience with it so far, Jess?
So actually, like playing online has been the most successful version of this game for me. Playing with friends is way more fun because the world itself is kind of boring. It's just empty. It doesn't feel alive in any way. There's no threat ever in this game. Like, you can see the enemies from a mile away, and even if you run right up next to them, sometimes they don't shoot you. Like, it's just like, it's very upsetting. So if you play with a friend, at least you can have conversations while you're walking around. You can say, hey, let's go in this house, let's find it, and it's actually like fun. It feels like walking around a neighborhood when you're a kid, just like about to go trick-or-treating or something. Like, that's kind of the vibe of this game. So those are like successful moments, and like the characters you talked about, relating to a character. I liked all of the characters, like all the main 4 classes. They're all really interesting. They all have their sassy one-liners. It's very, very like Deathloop in that way. And I don't know. I think there are like moments of brilliance in this game, but truly it's just like not satisfying to shoot, especially on console. Like, actually shooting, because it's a first-person shooter, actually shooting is just not the way it's supposed to feel. There's a huge dead zone in the middle of at least on Xbox Series S, which is the console I played on. There's a dead zone, and there's a massive amount of aim assist, which is just like, it makes you feel like you're really not doing any work at all. You're just like pressing the button to move forward instead of actually getting a skill shot off. And yeah, it's just, the variety of weapons gets very dull very quickly. There's room for a good game here, and it just falls really flat.
It is so, I feel like I'm playing it. I'm a couple hours and I'm like, this is perfectly fine. I'm sort of enjoying it, but I mostly feel like the cringe and disappointment of being like, man, this isn't just some studio. This is Arcane. These are the folks behind Dishonored. These are the folks behind Prey, specifically this studio, this branch being behind Prey. But I kind of love the Dishonored games in a way that I don't think enough people do. I feel like that should also be praised more. If you see somebody teleporting from one location to another in a first-person shooter type of game, it's probably from Arcane. They kind of keep that up here. It just seems really sad because they know how to make games. They also know how to like play with new gameplay ideas and elements. I think Deathloop was kind of frustrating if you didn't like follow the actual like tangents of the story and like the way you're supposed to play that game, which is a lot of like repeating through cycles and figuring out plot lines. This could have been more straightforward. This could have been more like a Destiny like a thing. What do you have a sense of like what this game was trying to be before it kind of pivoted into something maybe a little more mainstream?
I think that's a little closer, like a Destiny kind of game, an online experience, Borderlands, but leaning into just like online play. Like that felt like what Arcane wanted it to be. And maybe that's the assignment they were given to make. I don't know how the Microsoft Studio system works. And that's another thing. Like, this is an in-house project for Microsoft. They own this studio. And we haven't seen, like, Microsoft bought a ton of studios. We talked about consolidation in the industry. We're waiting to see the payoff of all these really interesting studios getting a lot of money, but now they have to partake in this studio system that maybe controls more of their creative process than we thought, maybe controls when they have to release a game in ways that end up in something like Redfall.
I almost feel like maybe there's a sense of like desperation here from Microsoft, Jess, like, because what we have seen, right, since the launch of the Xbox Series X and S, you reviewed the S, I reviewed the X, and I said, like, this is incredible hardware. Man, do they need games. It is now 3 years later. Man, do they need games. Again, like Halo Infinite was delayed for a year and launched also in like a semi-broken and unsatisfying state for a lot of people, especially like hardcore fans of Halo. It kind of feels like Microsoft just cannot. I don't know if this is a corporate thing or if this is just like they keep having a lot of bad luck or something. Do you have a sense of like where things went wrong, Jess, for Redfall?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Redfall is a symptom of what Microsoft is focused on right now, which has been cloud gaming and expanding in that way. They're trying to break out of the traditional console cycle, and I think they've done it. Like now they're trying to build an ecosystem where everyone can live and thrive, and the focus hasn't been on the games. It just hasn't. They've just been buying studios and saying, maybe that'll solve our problem, our software problem. We own all these studios. They can do the games. but they're not. They're just not. And I don't know where that tension is actually coming from. Like, why? Why hasn't Compulsion Games, the studio behind We Happy Few, we haven't heard from them in a long time. And I was actually so stoked that they like were getting funding. But now I'm a little worried about all the studios that Microsoft owns. And I think their focus on Game Pass, and like Redfall launched day one, same day as launch on Game Pass. So right. So like they know people are going to play it. Everyone with a Game Pass account can just play Redfall, whether it's trash or not. They don't have to spend any money. And then maybe enough people will play it where they can get the game in a shape where it actually runs. Is this just a sneaky early access version? Like, then don't charge $70 for it. If you're not in Game Pass, you still have to pay $70 for this game. It's being sold as a finished product. And I think that's sneaky because the developer, like Arcane and Microsoft, both knew this was in no shape for people to play it. They knew that. Like,
is this almost like game development kind of going the way of like Netflix shows where they're like, this is good enough. This will keep people subscribed to our thing. Like, just push it out. Just push it out. Doesn't matter if like the art itself is actually good. I'll also point out this is a true exclusive for Microsoft. So this is an exclusive in the way that Halo Infinite is. This is not on PlayStation 5. It is on, PC and other game stores on PCs, but you're playing on Windows, so you're still in Microsoft's wheelhouse there. This just, I don't know, Jess. I look at this and I'm like, what is happening here? Should I be worried about the Activision deal because Microsoft can't help these studios get to the finish line? Honestly, like, would it be better if Activision was its own thing or split up and bought by somebody else? Because I can't trust Microsoft with games right now. I think that's where I'm coming down with it, right?
We can't trust Activision with games either.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
No, but I will say, like, this is why consolidation is such a concern for me personally, because I see, like, we even have Valve 8 Campo Santo, and we haven't seen a peep out of that amazingly talented indie team. Like, this isn't just Microsoft, but Microsoft has bought the most amount of studios, like, most recently, right? Like, they really snapped this off. And I seriously, I love the fact that these teams are getting support and money, but what is the cost? And this is what we're finding out now. Like, is it going to change how they make games? And if Redfall is an example, then maybe. And that's very disappointing.
This is probably a good place to briefly talk about the the Activision deal as well. We talked a couple of weeks ago. The UK regulators came out against the deal because they're worried about over consolidation in the world of cloud gaming as well. So, we talk about Game Pass as a subscription thing, but this could also be a good cloud gaming type of game. And do you worry, Jess, like when it comes to the future of cloud gaming and how Microsoft is handling things now and leading to the future? Like, do you think it's not a good sign if they buy too many companies as well there?
I mean, I think it's just really a shame that truly it feels like the Xbox brand is very separate from quality games nowadays. And that didn't used to be the case. And it doesn't have to be the case. I feel like Microsoft has just lost its focus on actually creating video games, like the core of what we're all doing here. And hey, focusing on the network, all this infrastructure stuff, we truly need it. Like the cloud network that Microsoft has is it's very impressive. And I think it's a backbone of the future. But no, it just, I feel sad. I'm a little heartbroken that like Xbox is not synonymous with quality games right now. And I don't see it changing. I don't know.
We are in a weird spot, folks. So let us know what you think about like the state of Microsoft. Redfall, if you're playing it, if you have Game Pass, you might as well play it, right? Like that is a sort of like half-hearted, well, it's there and I'm subscribed to this.
Play with friends.
So play with friends.
Jump online with friends only if they have Game Pass, so they don't have to pay for this. Please do not pay for Redfall. Please
do not pay for Redfall. That's the big thing there. We'll be following what's happening with Microsoft too. Like it is very strange that they have bought all these companies and just the games are not coming out. But let's talk about another game. And that game is Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which I've played a bit as well. Another like highly anticipated thing, and also launched with its own set of like controversy. I don't know if you spent any time with this, Jess, but the PC version of this game, and honestly all the versions, has been kind of like a mess on launch day. They've slowly gotten better. Have you heard much or played much of this, Jess?
Yeah, so I've kept up with the controversy. I haven't played Jedi Survivor. We had Igor did our review,
Yes,
and
yes.
he, I mean, very detailed, knows what he's doing, loves that series. So that was really cool to read. But I've been keeping up with all the PC controversy, and yeah, that's another disappointing turn for the industry right now.
I believe Digital Foundry called the PC version of this game the worst PC port they've ever seen, or at least one of the
Yeah.
worst they've seen in recent years. I have GPUs that I review, and I have to keep them in cycle because when a new GPU comes out, I have to go back and re-benchmark every goddamn thing. So I have some powerful GPUs, folks, and let me tell you, when this game launched, I was seeing sub 40 frames per second on a 4080. I haven't gotten to the 4090 hooked back up yet, but that's not good. That's not good for like
No.
the 4080 costs $1,100, and I'm also running a CPU. I'm running like one of the higher end Ryzen ones right now. I think the 6800. You know, I don't know. I don't know what was going on there. EA put out kind of an apology notice to PC
Yeah.
players on Steam, being like, "We know this is not the performance you're expecting. They're working on it." They did point to like specific configurations could be causing these problems, and that also felt a little weird, like putting the blame on the user. Like,
Yeah.
hey, sucks for you, person who bought a high-end GPU, but your CPU is like bottlenecking things. That's not our fault. That's your
No.
fault, and not the
And it's
greatest
just
response.
disingenuous.
Yeah.
It's totally disingenuous because most people are having issues with this
Yes.
game, and like it's not just a small subset of people. And the fact that a 4080 can't run it or can't handle it doesn't fix the problem. That says everything. Most people are not playing on that high end of a rig. Like, just it's just true. And developers know that they can't just build a game for the highest bleeding edge rig that's out there. Like, that's silly. But that's not even Jedi Survivor's problem. This is like a coding issue. This game is broken. It's not going to be fixed, and that's not okay.
It does seem like it's going to be fixed. Like, there have been a few more updates since the first day, and hey, I'm getting 60 FPS now. I'm getting
Cool.
like nice, smoother, playable stuff, and that's good. Clearly, there's progress. Like, the game looks smoother. It has ray tracing features. It has DLSS as well, I believe. So all those things like help to improve performance. It is just shocking, like how it launched on PC, and you know, people are
and they knew it.
console. They knew it. It's like they
just like Microsoft. They knew.
It's one of those things like, you know, it's not good, and you're just gonna go for it because it's Star Wars, and you got to meet this date. You got to be out before May 4th because that is the, you know, global Star Wars celebration day. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's very
well, and it's not the only bad PC port we've gotten this year, like, or recently. Like, Last of Us Part 1 was trash. Callisto Protocol was trash for a lot of reasons, but it was also trash on PC. You know, like this generation of hardware is really pushing PC ports to their limit, it seems. And actually, I think we're going to have a video from Igor kind of diving into why Jedi Survivor is so broken. So that's going to be really cool. That'll be a video on our YouTube.
That's very cool. Well, yeah, there have been a series of things, but let's talk about the actual game. Did you play Fallen Order, the last one, Jess?
No, I'm not a huge Star Wars person. Okay. More Harry Potter.
These are good.
That's just what it is.
These are fun. I will say that. Like, I'm not a super Star Wars fan, but you put a lightsaber in my hands and you give me like Star Wars vibes and like the great music and cool adventure. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll play this for 10 to 20 hours. Yeah. And I had a lot of fun with Fallen Order. Had some great villains. It had some great, like, it was a great remix of the like Star Wars formula. And it's from Respawn, you know, the folks behind Titanfall. It has that feeling. It has just like smooth movement, smooth combat. I think this game's even better because they give you kind of more variety for the combat. You could go dual, you could have a lightsaber in each hand. You could go Darth Maul style lightsaber, you know, staff, basically double-ended. You could go one lightsaber plus a gun if you want. So the combat is a lot of fun. They're just like really changing things up, and clearly they spent a lot of time thinking about that. There's fast travel now. I don't know why that was not really well implemented in the first game, but the first game had these huge maps, and there was like a 3D Metroid, Super Metroid-esque map to like show you where things are. But sometimes you have to like basically walk for 15 minutes to get to a point if you want to get to a secret. Now you can fast travel between points, more like an Elden Ring or something. This is clearly a more like mature game. And I'm just having fun with it. I think Cal Kestis is not the most interesting character in the Star Wars universe, but the people around him are. I wish this game started stronger because the first game also had like a really great opening sequence. Both of these games do a good job of like giving you huge environments, Star Wars stuff, like fun Star Wars stuff. You want to see big starships, you want to see weird creatures and big action, and you want to hear the sound of the, you know, the actual, I don't know, the laser pistols and the actual lightsabers. This is the game for you. So I think this one is still a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. Jess, I would recommend play the first one. Just spend some time with it. It's worth it. Also, something that could probably run on a Steam Deck or something for you.
That's true. I have access to an Aya Neo right now, so
there you go. So
which is smaller. It fits better in my hands than a Steam Deck, by the way.
Yeah. The Aya Neos, and they're more powerful too. And I think we'll be seeing the Asus one soon too. So good time for that.
Exciting.
Good time to like play these games handheld too. But yeah, once again, folks, let us know what you think about Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I'm really digging it. And it's definitely keeping me more hooked than a lot of other recent games. Like I still have God of War. I have what was the last one? Ragnarok. I put maybe 4 or 5 hours into that. I just can't keep going because it's not compelling me the way these games do.
Really?
So yeah. Even though I know it's good, people keep saying it's good. I hear there's some good twists. I just like, it is one of those things that just like, maybe it's the inertia of just being super tired at the end of the day. And I usually just end up in front of my computer. I'm like, okay, computer, play game. I play game on computer. I don't have to like go set up and turn on the PlayStation and everything. So that's just my weird setup. And being, you know, I don't know, the parent of 2 young kids, it's all the life and energy sucked out of me. But one day I will go back to God of War. For now, Jedi Survivor is pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's take a pause here. Do you want to do some like Q&A or just keep going?
I think we have a little bit of stuff to Q&A, so we can run through it real quick. So we have CF542 says, these games are so complex and detailed, it's a wonder that they can get them out at all. Yes, absolutely. I think that is the healthiest way to think about how games are developed as a consumer. I'm also very into, I think, it was a tweet originally that said that I want shorter games with worse graphics by people paid more to do less, and I'm not kidding.
Indie games.
That's just indie games. Do it, everyone.
Yes.
A little to the left, Paranorma Site. These are games I'm playing right now. Yeah.
Then we've got Mark Dell saying that he was getting over 60 FPS with everything maxed except ray tracing at 4K for Jedi Survivors, and then Jedi Survivor just after or just before Dev said, oh yeah, there was, you know, a little bit of a fix that allowed much better performance. But God, like 40 FPS with like a really top of the line card.
It was very sad. It was very sad to see. Yeah.
And that literally is like, you can say to the game, that seems like a skill issue for you. Then we've got
I know when
Adam.
It's a skill issue, okay? That's why I don't play like Demon Souls very much.
Oh no, it's like for literally the game. It is the game's skills that are not up to snuff. Then we've got Adam ML who says that why can PlayStation get it right on first-party exclusives but Microsoft can't? I also think Game Pass has become stagnant recently. Not sure if it's worth the money anymore.
There are still a lot of good games. Like even if you don't care for Redfall, like they still keep putting on like good indie stuff. Like if there's a cool indie game you've probably heard about, somehow it always ends up on Game Pass. So whoever is choosing the titles in the deals with Microsoft, I think is doing a pretty good job. I don't know how you feel about that side of Game Pass, Jess.
No, I agree. I mean, it is kind of turning into like early days of Valve when it started, or Steam when it started to get inundated with games, and everyone was like, "How do we handle this?" And then they had green light, and then early access. You know, all the indie stuff they had to do. Game Pass is like not quite there, but I totally feel the fatigue. I totally get it. The thing that keeps me invested in Game Pass is the fact that the one I have, the plan that I think most people have is the PC and console one. And it just makes so much sense. It's so versatile to be able to go from PC to your console and then have all those games. I do think there's enough there to keep me interested personally. And like, again, Redfall's worth playing if you're not paying extra money for it.
Right.
Yeah.
There are so many things like Game Pass. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm here. I have 30 minutes. I would like to play some pew pew. Please just give me the pew pew. So I launch the Xbox app and be like, I'm just going to cloud stream this because I don't want to spend 1 minute installing a thing to my computer. Just put it in my hands. and it works. It's pretty good. Like I can see some video compression, but it's good enough to like give me that gaming fix.
It's great.
Yeah,
It works
so
for
the
me.
cloud stuff
Yeah.
works.
And honestly, like as much I talk about Activision
Mhm.
a lot, but I'm still playing Overwatch 2 like every week, like multiple times a week. That's still my second place where
I
I
mean,
just
that's another game
that's
where
where
we
I
can talk
go.
about like what happened there, what happened to that game. Like I still play it occasionally too, but I'm like,
Still playing.
you don't deserve that 2 in your title. There's nothing 2 about you.
Yeah, like,
Overwatch
and
2.
why
Yeah.
did they
Yeah.
non-consensually give all of us Overwatch 2
Yeah.
just like as an
It's just
update?
Overwatch. It's just Overwatch. That's all it is.
Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
lot of problems with how they handle characters and variety and content, absolutely. But it's just easy to pick
It's
up
a
and
good
play
loop.
for me, and it's a really good loop, really satisfying. I like first person shooters, like done. Yeah, so
And
But
like just good power balance. Yeah.
aren't they
Yeah.
also positioning Overwatch to be like very much an esports game? And so like the
Yeah,
idea of like making
If they-
some kind of a radical change would really bother people because I mean, think
yeah,
back
Yeah.
a few years. There are
think-
people still playing
Yeah.
Super Smash Brothers Melee
We talked
because
about
they
this
think
when
that's the
Overwatch
best
2
version for competitive
When
play.
Overwatch 2 launched, we did talk about this. It seemed like the game was actually being tuned for esports players and not for normal gamers. Like there are a lot of decisions
But-
like making the thing smaller. Yeah, but yeah.
which is so upsetting because
Yes.
Activision Blizzard is so bad at running esports leagues.
Yes.
Like Overwatch League has been left to just disintegrate. Basically, it feels like, and and then the NetEase stuff. There
That's
are
the
teams
whole-
from
it's a whole
China that
other
aren't
thing. But by the way,
participating. Yeah.
Ben, you brought up Smash. I believe we have covered some Smash stuff on the site on Engadget, so go read about that. Jim Jam is asking, will Jess review the RG, the ROG Ally? I don't like saying ROG. No, Sam Rutherford will be reviewing that, but we should be getting that soon, like close to that release. So I'm excited, and hopefully Asus will have some to like send around because I want to play with that hardware. Bring back Unreal Tournament, says Mark Dell. You know what?
Why not?
Yeah, actually, though.
I would
Why
love,
not?
like there's so much of me that wants to go back to like the PC games I cut my teeth on, and like there is Quake Live now, and like Quake 3 Arena was that game for me, so you can get kind of some of that now. And I'll be honest,
That's the
Halo
feeling I'm
Infinite-
chasing with Overwatch. It's just it's not quite there, but it's close enough, so it keeps me coming back. Yeah.
Yep.
Also, I'm really hoping for a like large multiplayer kind of battle arena game that does not have the battle royale.
There's a bunch.
Now,
There's a
like
bunch.
I'm getting a little bit tired of
Yeah.
the general concept of Storm Eye closing, so it brings you closer and closer
I mean,
together.
what Call of Duty is doing now is it extraction, just like where they're basically missions and their objectives and their NPCs to kill and stuff like that, but they're also their players. So like people are playing around with the battle royale concept, and maybe we should talk more about this at some point. But yeah, thank you, folks. We should probably just move on to news. We've got a
Yep,
bunch of
let's get
stuff
to it then.
about. Hold your questions, folks. We will try to do another Q&A once we get through all this stuff. Okay. Let's move on to some other news. And one thing I want to mention is the Writers Guild of America, the WGA, is going on strike. And that is, those are writers for TV and film, and I think WGA covers maybe some other stuff. But these writers are going on strike because they are not getting paid enough for streaming content. And they're also worried about like what the future of AI could mean for their actual business. So this is something I'm bringing up now because it does kind of relate to what we talk about very often. The way streaming works means that writers aren't getting as much money as they used to when like an episode of a show was rebroadcast on network TV or something. The writers are talking about not being able to make enough money to basically survive in LA and basically having to like steal food from their studios to keep going. It's not great. It's not a great situation. So we will probably be doing some coverage around this. I just want to highlight this as a thing that our listeners should be thinking about because I think AI is probably a big factor here too. We've seen some companies already announce like they're canning thousands of potential jobs. IBM just announced a big thing because those roles will be replaced by AI. And I'm sure studio executives are being like, well, look at this GPT-4 thing. This can write words. All I need is words to make the pictures. And looking at some recent movies that were made for Netflix, I'm like, that could have been written by AI, sure. and it was still like wildly popular for Netflix. So Jess, you are an actual writer, not just like a tech blogger, low life like me. You're a writer. How do you feel about this as like looking at the future of media and of TV and movies?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I thought the writer's strike was mostly about AI before I started reading like what was actually
Yeah.
going on. It's a very complex issue, obviously. But yeah, I think about AI in video games and in writing a lot. Personally, I am not worried about AI taking any of my jobs. I'm not worried about AI taking any of the high level creative jobs. Like, I still think we need humans to create art that is worth imbibing. And I think that's not going to change for a while. I don't think Chat GPT is anywhere close to a good writer. That it's just not. And yeah, so I understand the fear, the hesitancy. I see AI as a tool. I think it can take a lot of the grunt work out of the jobs that we do, and I think even out of writing. It's like a better search engine.
Sure.
It's a starting place. It's a helpful tool in a lot of ways.
Do you see the danger though? Like I think what a lot of people are worried about is I saw C. Robert Cargill, the writer behind Sinister and a whole bunch of great horror movies, and he used to be an online writer. He used to be a blogger on Ain't It Cool News. He was saying like the real worry too is that it's not just that we'll be replaced by AI, but that we will have to clean up AI basically. Like they will do like give me a synopsis, give me like a story pitch for a movie with these factors, you know, and then they bring in a real writer to be like, okay, fix this. And I do feel like
But
that
that's just
happens a lot
studio.
in movies. That is just
But
studio.
that happens now. Yeah.
That
That's
happens now,
just
but that
studio
also
being like
means
looking at, yeah.
that means that writer doesn't get full story credit. You know, that means that writer is there to fix the mess of the AI, but the AI is taking like the potential money an actual writer could have been doing. Like that is the thing there. To me, that
Well,
seems
that's
like
the
potential
issue.
danger.
That's an issue with any corporation that is focused on making money and not making
Sure.
art.
Sure.
I think that's a human issue. I hope that there will still be people creating, art that's worthwhile using actual human brains and creativity. And then AI can just be a tool that they use. But yeah, I think the structure where there are a lot of people in charge that maybe don't have the actual art on their minds, like that is an issue. But I do see it as more of a systemic problem than just like AI is going to be the downfall of everything. Yeah.
It's, I mean, kind of both, like maybe a slow downfall. And also, if writers right now are saying they're not making enough money to live, you know, like that seems like a problem.
That's a problem.
Especially
That's
if they're
definitely a
writing
problem.
on major shows. I think it was writers from Abbott Elementary were talking about like how they're just not making enough just from working on that show. And that is a big mainstream, broadcast network show. That's not even something that is just made for streaming, but it does get rebroadcast to streaming. It is on Hulu and stuff, and they don't make any money from that. So this is something we're thinking about. I'm seeing some conversations in the chat. I'm not going to call anybody out specifically here, but you should probably care about writers, because if you like anything, do you like a movie? Do you like a TV show? Doesn't come from the head of Zeus or something, right? It is writing and words and thought that makes literally everything you like and enjoy. And you should probably think about like when all the writers are saying like this is a problem and we are being taken advantage of by this studio system, you should probably pay attention. Otherwise, enjoy really like crappy reality TV or whatever recycled AI content they're going to give you. Like that's what the future is actually going to be.
Even reality TV is scripted. They have writers.
A lot of it is scripted, but a lot of it is also just, hey, we have the scenario where they just kind of like see what the chaos rules do. But yes, they also have writers. And people can create stuff without being part of the WGA. They can be scabs and they can just like make stuff because the studio is desperate for people. So
yeah.
Hey, this is a weird situation, and we're going to be talking more about it because I think it is essential to what we do. I cover media quite a bit. I review movies and TV all the time. So I care about what the writers think, and I think we should too. In other news,
Absolutely.
there was a story about the White House proposing a 30% tax on electricity used for crypto mining. This seems pretty straightforward. In a blog post that the White House posted, they're calling this the Digital Asset Mining Energy, or DAME excise tax. And it wants to tax crypto mining farms because they aren't paying the full cost that they impose on others, which includes environmental pollution and high energy prices. Any thoughts on this, Jess? This just seems like a pretty straightforward yes to me. Please, let's do this.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I have a lot of
we
thoughts
can't stop
about
the
the
crypto.
toothlessness.
We can't stop
Yeah,
the crypto, but we can make them pay more. I
and
also
that's
think,
fine.
like, yeah, the government needs to like freaking look harder at what power companies are doing. I live in Georgia, and Georgia Power is currently talking to the state government that's just like, hey, we need to charge people more money because fuel got more expensive. So I need the customers to pay for this and not us, because we were too dumb to not invest enough in, renewable energy. We bought more. They bought, what was it? Clean. They bought gas, fuel, and invested more in coal. And because of that, prices went up. And that's apparently customers' problems. So energy and the way we think about energy in this country is kind of a huge mess too. We talked a little about Texas's power grid and like what a disaster that whole setup is as well. They're all kind of like handled separately per state. This is at least something, and especially because crypto is out there destroying the environment for nothing, just for make believe money, I guess. In other news, we
All
cannot.
money's make believe.
It is, yeah, it's all make believe. In other news, we cannot go a week without talking about Elon Musk and the dumb things Elon Musk is doing. There was a story recently that he reportedly threatened to reassign NPR's Twitter account because they stopped posting. So, hey, free speech warriors, like the online free speech warriors who demand nothing but free speech. This doesn't sound like free speech to me. And this seems like a
Mhm.
major problem for Elon and like what they want Twitter to be. I don't know. Are you spending at any time at all, Jess, or have you kind of like moved over to another service?
I actually, like, the last tweet I sent was maybe a week or two ago, and
Mhm.
it was me saying I'm out of here for now.
Yeah.
It's not a place I want to hang out, not people I want to hang out with, run by someone that I truly despise.
Yeah. Totally
Yeah,
get it.
it's
Totally get
it's
it.
just yeah, and honestly, the NPR, like labeling NPR as a government news organization, that was truly like one of my final straws.
Yeah,
There
because
were
he
there were
knows what he's
definitely others.
doing, and he's just cackling and trolling
And
about it. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just to claim that that you're standing for free speech and democracy while you're destroying the freedom of the press and the trust, helping
Mhm.
erode trust in actual media and free press. Like
Mhm.
it's just counterintuitive and very harmful
It's
to me. So
it is hilarious to see how much like those free speech warriors kind of fail once they actually get put in a place to actually make these things happen. In other Twitter news, by the way, the company is restoring free API access for emergency weather and transportation alerts. I feel like this is too little, too late. Another boneheaded move where Twitter basically said it was shutting off its API and forcing people to pay a lot of money to use it, which for many organizations, especially government organizations like Twitter just functions as like an alert system, and an information thing. And the New York Department of Transportation, a lot of like transportation and government organizations just said like we're not going to do this anymore. There's no reason to invest in the service. And again, it's another thing of like Elon shooting his own foot. And related to all of this, by the way, Blue Sky, the sort of alternative, the thing potentially launched, the thing like it was co-launched with a lot of money by Jack Dorsey, the original founder of Twitter. Blue Sky is blowing up. So that's a thing. I haven't gotten an invite yet, but do you have any thoughts on like Blue Sky? Would this be a place you go next, Jess?
yeah,
Now that you've given up on
yeah,
Twitter?
this is more appealing to me than like Mastodon, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is just like mostly like tech industry people, which is fine. That's a cool resource, but I think Blue Sky is closer to like the mass, population.
Mastodon's like when I have this experience because I also work there. But when you're in college and you go downstairs to the basement and you're in a computer lab, and it's like
Yeah.
it's that
Yes.
community of folks. They're great. They're earnest. I love them. They're my people. But oh man, sometimes they live on another planet. So that is Mastodon. Blue Sky. There have been so many other things. We talked about social. What was it? One of the social things. And also
True.
posts.
No.
True. Not true.
Not
social.
true. So not
There was
not true. social.
another. There were so many like these Twitter alternatives, and then there was Post, which was one other thing that launched, and that was the one trying to be like, we will pay you for your content, and we'll be more verified and everything. I never trusted Post because that is also
Yep.
another like weird VC backed thing that just seemed like it was doomed to fail. For me, at least Mastodon proved like we could do decentralized pretty well, and Blue Sky isn't quite that, but it is. It does have like some aspects of decentralization going on, at least from what I can tell.
Mhm.
I haven't played with it yet, but from a lot of people from their hands-ons with it, it just seems like a very simple Twitter. It lacks some crucial accessibility features. People are talking about you cannot put alt tags on images. So, you know, I feel like basic things for the web and for usability for a large portion of users are not there. But it is getting the like weirdness of Twitter. And I feel like that's it. You got to follow where drill goes. You got to follow where the weirdos go, because if you want
Yeah.
the vibes of like weird Twitter and the comedy behind it and just the drama around it, you kind of have to follow them. And it seems like Blue Sky is where they're going. You know, if you're lucky enough to try Blue Sky, folks, let us know what you think. Podcast.engadget.com. I'm waiting. I see you writing something, but it's okay. Real quick, we've got some AI updates as well, because, again, a week cannot go by without more AI updates. I just wrote up this news last night. Microsoft announced it's opening up its Bing AI for public testing. You do not need to use there's no wait list anymore. You don't have to like wait at all. You just have to sign in on Edge with your Microsoft account and then go to Bing, and then you can just use the Bing chat, which is powered by GPT-4. They're also adding a whole bunch of new features. There's going to be chat history, so you can actually go back and see your conversations with Bing AI. You can continue a conversation. They are eventually going to add sharing and exporting features as well. And also the Bing Image Creator, which uses DALL-E to create AI-generated pictures. That is getting a little more enhanced within Bing AI. Now it supports up to 100 languages, which is like all the languages Bing typically supports. But hey, it's growing. Jess, have you played with any of this stuff?
No, not Bing. Like,
Not
should
Bing?
I be
should play with it.
interested? Should I care?
Again,
Okay.
you should go play with
Okay.
it, because we just talked
I'll
about the
do it.
WGA thing, and you could do it pretty easily. If you download the Bing app to your phone, your iPhone or Android, you could get to it as well. You will have to sign in with your Microsoft account. I would spend some
Is
time
this
playing around
different?
with it.
Different than ChatGPT
So
significantly?
it's the same deal. Bing AI
Yeah.
is powered by GPT-4, which was the
Okay.
newer, the slightly more advanced version of ChatGPT. So at this point, you really don't need to spend time with ChatGPT itself. I don't think they put in
Right.
GPT-4 there yet. Bing AI is like the thing to play with, and Google's Bard. It is nice to like
Bard.
compare how they both work together. I think Bing AI just seems like, man, Microsoft got a big leap ahead because they were pouring money into OpenAI for such a long time, and they just seem ready to integrate this stuff into Bing, into Edge itself, into Windows 11. There's like Bing integrated on my taskbar now. It does seem like Microsoft is building a platform around Bing AI that is more than just like, you're going here and you're going to go search the web and you're going to leave Bing forever. This is more like, you're in Microsoft Office now. Like Bing AI could be something you're using every day to answer simple questions, to fetch things for you from the web, to collate information. So yeah, Jess, I'd recommend you spend some time with it. I'd recommend all our listeners spend some time with this stuff. Even if you don't think it's going to be a big deal, I think it's worth knowing how it works. Because yeah, it's this all progressing so quickly. They only launched this thing 3 months ago, and now they're ready to open it entirely, for the public to test. This isn't an official launch. Maybe that'll happen towards the end of the year, but things are moving fast, and I think you should pay attention to what's happening here. That goes for everybody. There's also a story about George Hinton, the quote-unquote godfather of AI, who recently left Google and now has plenty of worries that AI could cause a lot of harm. So there's coverage of this at the New York Times and a lot of major news sites. It is really interesting because George Hinton is somebody I've seen written about quite a bit. Like, he is somebody in 2012, like I believe, like he created the tech that would basically serve as a foundation for a lot of the way any of these things work, like how ChatGPT works and how Google Bard works. And he's done a lot of research on this. And now this guy has basically left Google and is doing the Oppenheimer thing. And he even like references the Oppenheimer quotes, like, yeah. He kind of has looked at what he has created and what these companies are doing, and he's very worried about how quickly Microsoft and OpenAI and everybody are moving to launch these things without looking at the potential issues around them. And I think these articles are worth a read, especially the New York Times one, because it's by Cade Metz, and he has always done really interesting work around like big tech and chips and things like that. So check that out. And there is some like, I don't know how you think about this, Jess. Like when you hear of somebody who has created this thing that has the potential for harm and is now like, oh no, I have made a lot of money from this and now I am against it. How do you feel like first up with his I don't know, his turning around on this?
I don't want to discourage anyone from admitting when they've taken something too far or made a mistake. Hey, we're all human. I think AI itself, I can see how you could get into it from an excited place of the possibilities of the things it can do. I do think when you're at that level and you're truly building systems that can do all the things AI can do, the worlds it can like really open for us, I think it would be hard not to think about that early on in the process, right? Maybe he's been bringing up all these concerns the whole time. I still feel like there is no system in place for any of these companies to be kept in check, to actually make sure we're doing things in a way that is going to benefit society.
Say, like, we were looking at AI ethics. We are paying attention to that. Microsoft said that at the end of the Bing announcement, like, are you? We just saw the news about you like laying off a huge amount of that staff. There's also criticism against George Hinton because he's like, it's a little alarmist mainly, and also he's not bringing up the issues people are talking about right now in that, the data sets are based on things that have been, fed things that already exist and things that also have their own like underlying issues with them when it comes to representation and diversity and things like that. There are also people saying like he should have probably spoken up sooner when Timnit Gebru and other people at Google were saying, hey, this is a problem, and they were fired because they were trying to like stop this the tidal wave of progress that Google was kind of pursuing in AI. I think those are all valid complaints, but I also think we should probably just like, pay attention to what this guy is saying too, and listen to a lot of other folks in this field. I've talked about Emily Bender quite a bit. She's also somebody who's like a great AI researcher and commentarian, and her whole thing is a lot of these folks are talking about like the doom and gloom apocalypse, like a Terminator scenario, when like the actual harms of AI are more like the things we're talking about now. It's like what the WGA writers are worried about, like what it could do for their business. There have been all sorts of stories about people being misidentified by facial recognition technology, which is kind of in a similar vein. So these are all things we should be worrying about, and we should be asking more questions, and hopefully we'll see more regulation soon. But yeah, check out these articles about George Hinton. It's just a wild thing to see. Let's move on to what we're working on. Yeah, go ahead, Jess.
No, it's just really relevant. It's kind of interesting to think about the time we're living in terms of AI. Like it feels like a pretty, this is a milestone moment that we're living through. So yeah, I think paying attention to all these things is for sure pretty important.
It feels like whiplash to me. It feels like milestone after milestone after milestone. Like we're just going to keep pumping, and everyone's like, hey, wait, maybe we should slow down. This could be potentially harmful to society, or, how we pursue information or anything like that. And we're just going to keep barreling towards it. So I don't know. That's kind of where I stand. I'm certainly worried about like what it could mean for the way we process information, and honestly, the nature of reality, because the deepfakes coming are going to be horrifying and terrifying, and could potentially like change global politics too. It is just, it's a weird thing to see. Let's move on to what we're working
AI
on.
literacy.
AI literacy. We're all going to need it. Let's move on to what we've been working on, and I've been talking for a while. So Jess, what are you working on?
So I am deep in planning for Summer Game Fest, not E3 2023.
Not E3. Is that the hashtag not E3? Yeah,
honestly.
that
Not
should
all
just be the
E3s.
hashtag. Yeah.
No, no, it's just it's weird to think about a summer game convention that isn't E3, but hey,
Mhm.
Summer Game Fest has stepped up, and there's going to be plenty of coverage coming out of that. Lots of hands-ons, lots of like time with developers,
Mhm.
which that's all stuff I really miss. You know, it
Yeah.
hasn't been the same since the pandemic, and so this is going to be the first like really exciting one for me. I'm really stoked. So yeah, I'm deep in planning for that right now.
Gotcha. We didn't actually get to chat like when they announced that E3 wasn't happening this year, Jess. And it honestly, like reading that announcement, I was like, E3 is just dead. I don't think E3 is ever coming back. Like, what do you think about E3 as a concept now?
Yeah, I mean, we published an article by
Mm-hmm.
me in
Mm-hmm.
2018 where I was talking about the death of E3, the coming
Mm-hmm.
death of E3. It was sped up so much because of the pandemic, obviously. And yeah, I don't know what E3 looks like after this if it comes back.
Mm-hmm.
I could very clearly see a future where, yeah, we never get another E3. And that is a little sad. Like I didn't expect to feel that way, but it is a
Mm-hmm.
little sad. End of an era, I would say.
I
Summer
mean,
Game Fest
did you grow
is
up
really
with
cool
it?
though.
Did you grow up with the
Mhm.
concept of E3 as something you've always wanted to attend, Jess? I feel like that's what's been happening to a lot of us. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was very much into Comic-Con and
Yeah.
all the geeky conventions and stuff. And then I was very quickly, luckily in my career, very quickly able to go to E3. So that was just like it's always been a part of my
Mm-hmm.
career in this industry. And it it's a huge part of my personal story. Like I have so many memories of E3. I can the smell of the show floor even like, you know, it's just like
Maybe don't
very
remember that.
specific.
Or the
But I
smell of the
can't forget it.
bathrooms at the
Get it
convention
out of my
center.
head.
Yeah. The horrors I've seen in those bathrooms. Oh my God. Yes, but the
Yeah,
smells
well,
of
hey,
E3.
the women's bathroom was always a little cleaner at E3. There were always a lot more men there for some
Mm.
reason. Weird.
The things
Yeah.
I've seen in urinals at E3, man.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Jess. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to
That's
look
me.
forward to that coverage and some things I'm working on. I actually just had a piece go up this morning. I talked with Nita Manzoor, the director and writer of Polite Society, which is his awesome new movie. I'll talk about this actually. I talked about it before. It's the one about British Pakistani teens. It's about a young girl who wants to become a stunt double, a stunt actor, and her sister gets engaged to somebody, and she's like, "I got to save my sister against this evil, husband's mother." It is a weird mishmash of like Scott Pilgrim and all sorts of things. Like Scott Pilgrim meets Bend It Like Beckham. I think there are like legit fight sequences in this movie, and they're shot like The Matrix or something because Nita Manzoor is an absolute geek. So I talked with her about how she lives with tech, and also I'm trying to find excuses to talk to people who are not always like straight tech related. So I feel like maybe this is our angle. And I recorded that interview. So if you actually stay tuned to the end of this episode, we will put that up there and you can hear our conversation, what she thinks of Spotify, her favorite old tech, what she's looking forward to in the future. This is a new thing I'm working on. So let me know if you guys like this style of interview as well. Okay. Let's move on to our pop culture picks for the week. Just what you got?
Oh, I am already in character for this one. I've been wearing a Vanderpump Rules related sweater this whole time, and you didn't know.
I did.
So yeah, I'm deep into Vanderpump Rules right now. Like Bravo shows in general. I love the Real Housewives franchise, Married to Medicine, but Vanderpump is just like really popping off. I'm sure the Scandival has made it to the mainstream news sites. There's a big cheating scandal, and I am supporting Ariana today.
Okay.
So
okay. I'm smiling.
That's it. That's all I got for you.
I've been reading. I feel like it's been a decade now of when I've been hearing about Vanderpump Rules. What is this? Is this like a spinoff from something that already? This is a spinoff of Real Housewives, right?
It's a spinoff of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Mm-hmm.
So Lisa Vanderpump, one of those housewives, she has a bunch of restaurants in LA. And so it follows her staff who, when it started, they were young, just like they were all just messing around with each other, cheating on each other, very dramatic. But now they're like pushing 40 and doing the same thing.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
But like it has just like really culminated in this moment right now where we're watching these two people lie to their friends all season about an affair that we know they are having, and then at the reunion we're going to get to see them torn apart. So it's like it's a very meta experience right now.
Okay.
Yeah, very cool. Very
Whatever
cool.
brings you joy in this hellscape, Jess, this sounds like a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
This sounds like fun. I want to talk about a couple of things. I've been watching Silo, the new adaptation of the Hugh Howey Wool books. And Silo, I guess, became the name of the series of books, but Wool was a book that he self-published on Amazon, I believe, and then got really popular. This was like one of the first like big self-published things, and like I don't know if it kickstarted that trend, but it was certainly a big part of that trend. It's about a people in a dystopian future who live in an underground silo with a lot of rules and regulations. You can't go outside. What happens in sci-fi, folks? People break the rules. People are like, why can't I go outside? What's that? Do you have a conspiracy? What's going on here? This is another one of those stories, but I'm bringing it up because this is actually really, really well done. I've never read the books, but my wife is into them, mostly because I feel like this concept has just been done over and over again. I've seen this concept so many times. What is great about Silo is that it is developed by Graham Yost, who did Justified on TV, and if you want some of that like nice texture of a world and of characters, this show has that. The actual underground silo sets and the whole universe of it just feels very real and very lived in. It's really well designed, incredibly well acted, and the show just like takes really interesting chances. You see Rebecca Ferguson, who's in the Mission Impossible movies. She's on the posters. She's the one like they're parading around as the lead of the show. The first episode, she shows up for maybe a minute at the end. The first episode takes its time and tells you the story about David Oyelowo and his wife, played by what's her name? Keep forgetting her name. Another famous actress, but it is it's really, really fascinating. Like, this is a show that doesn't rush to get you into places. It's very well written and very smart about everything it's doing. So if you like science fiction and if you like these dystopian stories about, very secluded societies where there may be conspiracies and there's a lot of rules involved with where they live, this is definitely one worth checking out. This is on Apple TV Plus, and I believe it starts airing today. I also checked out Suzume, and real quick, I just want to say this is Makoto Shinkai's next movie. He's the director of Your Name and other like big anime. Big, also slice of life anime that tends to have like supernatural elements to it. This movie is really fascinating, and I don't know if you could still see it in theaters. I think this was the last week it's out there. So Jess, I see you clapping. Try to see it in theaters if you can. This is big. Okay, great. This is a big, beautiful movie about a girl who goes on a mission to sort of prevent disasters around Japan, but also as somebody like I've done a lot of research around Japan. Like I spent way too much time watching anime too. It is interesting culturally, like what this movie is getting at, because it is sort of like the idea that Japan is this place where these disasters are just kind of bound to happen, and the society is just often like rebuilt around it. And there's this lingering sense of like loss of what happens in Japan specifically too. This explores a lot, and it goes a lot of interesting places. It also has a talking chair. I still don't understand the talking chair, but yeah. Jess, what did you think of this movie?
Oh, I was in love. It made me cry, but that's just pretty standard for these movies.
Stuff, yeah.
That's exactly it. Yeah, but it was very heartfelt and truly beautiful. And then there's a walking chair, which is just fantastic.
It's fantastic. It's really well animated. Shinkai's last movie was Weathering with You, which is also one of the more interesting like climate change commentaries I've seen out there. It's just like, hey man, deal with it. Like, it's not up to us to fix climate change. I don't know. Weathering with You was interesting. I think I like this one more. Neither are as good as like Your Name. I feel like Your Name was like such a like masterful film, and Your Name also sold the sort of like romance between the characters more strongly, whereas this one was like, I like Chair. I love Chair, actually. I love Chair. That's the movie, but it's a lot of fun, and Makoto Shinkai stuff I'm always down with. So yeah, check it out if you can. I'm sure it's gonna be on VOD and maybe Blu-ray eventually. And I think that's it for this episode. I will wrap us up. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our very own managing editor Terrence O'Brien. The podcast is produced by Ben Ellman. You can find me online at Devindra on Twitter. Who knows how long that'll last. I'm also on Mastodon at Devindra at mastodon.social. And Jess, where can we find you online?
Yeah, I am on Instagram That's where I live nowadays. So at Jess L. Condit on Instagram, that's me.
All right. I do like your Instagram. You post some really interesting photos, Jess. You can always email us at podcastengadget.com. Leave us a review in iTunes and subscribe on anything that gets podcasts. Thanks, folks. We're out.
Okay. Julio said in our production chat, I'll take a talking chair over a talking chainsaw any day.
How dare you?
Lollipop?
What? No. No, that is the other one. The other
Why not
one.
both?
Chainsaw Man, right?
Yes.
That show rules. What are you talking about, Julio?
I mean, not everyone has to like it.
That show rules.
Too much blood, he says. It got to me.
It is a very gross show. Hello, everybody in the chat. We're going to be wrapping up, but how are you all doing? We have any questions?
Oh, I saw
Yeah.
someone dropped Evil Dead. I saw Evil Dead Rise also. That was a very fun watch.
Fun.
I love
it.
Was like campy and gross. I loved it. Yeah.
Also the only Evil Dead where I cared about the characters because, man, that is rough. That is a rough situation. I wanted that family to survive. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, that was good.
So well made. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got some interesting comments during the second half of the show. I'm not sure if this is what D-Man meant, but the way that I'm reading it gets to like a deeper thing. So D-Man, you can tell me whether or not you like your intention was how I'm reading it. But he said you got to define taking a job. We're talking about AI here. You got to define taking a job through because replacing someone with a job already is different from, well, we kind of maybe could hire a human to do this, but I think AI would suffice. The way that I see this is that yes, you could like be doing
that's also a problem.
Yeah, like make more money, be more efficient, but it actually doesn't help the people working there.
Nothing about like, yeah, go ahead, Jess.
No, just in the end, the issue is capitalism. Always.
There's nothing in the history of capitalism that shows that this will be used responsibly. Like, seriously, you give people a way to cut corners cheaply and they will do it. They'll take it all.
But hopefully AI, creates new job opportunities, hopefully more exciting, fulfilling job opportunities for people, hopefully there's some kind of trade-off here.
I think about The Simpsons all the time. And one of the best quotes is the war of the future will be fought by robots and it will be your job to build and maintain those robots.
Yeah.
And that is it. That is where we are going. And that also means like, hey, you're going to be a prompter. You're going to be a hotshot AI prompter. You know where to put those commas and what like commands to trigger to make DALL-E create the best like generated picture. I don't know. I'm sure that's a skill. I don't know how exciting that seems. Yeah.
The frustrating thing is that it should be seen like generative AI or generative machine learning, whatever you want to call it, should be seen as something to help the current headcount of X corporation get a little bit more done. But I think that it will end up being, let's reduce the headcount and also have the people who are still working here do the same amount of what we expect them to do, or even more, because they have these AI tools.
Yeah, everyone's like, automation could give you a life of leisure. That literally has never happened. Especially like you look at the history of factory work right now.
But the Renaissance. There was a Renaissance. And we just decided to not keep doing it.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, we could ostensibly, be living a life of leisure. That would be nice.
I mean, the Renaissance was funded by very rich people too. So it's like, it's the whole...
It was only a Renaissance for some people. The ideas, though.
Yeah, the ideas. I love it. Well, chat.
And then we have... then we have user Jim Jam who just said, Bart Simp. Cool, I agree.
It's true.
Mark Dell then says, I use Bing AI along with Microsoft Copilot. I honestly miss both those AIs whenever I can't use them. Mark, could you give us a little bit more context on what you use it to help you do?
I'll tell you folks, like when I do reviews, I often have to compare specs to computers, and that all typically involves like going to Google, finding the manufacturer site, getting the windows side by side and trying to like look at those numbers. And I have been able to tell Bing AI like, hey, can you give me the the specs of the Razer Blade 17 versus the 15 or something? And it does it. and I look a few times to confirm that the numbers are correct, and that's true. And then I have
It's
this
just
nice
like
table I can go look at. Yeah.
it's like better Wikipedia. That's how
It's
I
better
use it
Wikipedia.
right now. You know,
Yeah.
and like that's why I'm not terrified of it, because I see kind of like what it's actually being used for in a
Sure,
real
sure.
sense. I feel like it's stuff like that.
I think we have
I
a
feel
better
like it's-
sense of tech
yeah.
though. Like you look at Facebook in 2005 or 2006, just like these are posts between your high school friends, I guess. This is fun, I guess. Flash forward 10 years, the
Yeah.
democracy is on the brink because of these companies. So
Yeah.
we're just like looking at where things could scale, and certainly it's not just like reading science fiction too. Like I'm always trying to keep my eye out for like what is the next big tech thing. It wasn't the metaverse, wasn't quite virtual reality, even though I spent a lot of time in virtual reality, but a new way of like sifting through and delivering information to people that is basically powered by like these magical black boxes. That seems interesting, and also like we do not know how to wield this power. And I think humans have proven like you give us a new toy, we're going to destroy the world with it somehow. Like that's the sad thing to me, unless you have like actual constraints built in. Yeah.
True. And so Mark Dell says, I use Copilot for writing code or comments.
Nice.
I was using Bing recently to help me write a shell script that allows me to multi-thread and kill processes. So this actually seems like a perfect example of what people have been talking about. Like it allows you to just automate something that would otherwise be just a little bit tedious to do.
Sure.
Yep.
It's absolutely
That's
true.
the tool.
Yeah.
A lot of entry level jobs, unfortunately, is that tedium. So what does that mean? Like that is the thing.
Yeah.
Like, what did I spend my early years in journalism doing? Is like writing stupid funding reports and like writing very basic things about these companies, but also learning skills that really helped me decode news and financials and stuff later on. So how does that mean like a new reporter will just like move straight into other types of work without getting the
No.
work done? I don't know.
No.
And maybe they
It doesn't.
Maybe
It means there needs to be a systemic shift in how we
It
do
does.
some of these jobs. It doesn't mean they're disappearing. It's
We don't know,
maybe
Jess.
instead of writing,
Yeah.
we don't know. We have no idea. But like instead of writing all the stuff that maybe an AI could put together, you're editing those, and then you're honing
Yeah.
your interview skills, and you're given the room to work on stories
I would
that
hope
have
so.
more weight and depth.
I would hope so.
That's the hope, right? That's a possibility
What
just as
happened to
much as the other
BuzzFeed
stuff.
recently?
Yeah.
BuzzFeed, hey, we're going to AI to do all this work. Also, BuzzFeed News, bye-bye. You're gone. So
Well, I mean, there were so many other problems with BuzzFeed.
there were so many
I
other
think
problems,
that the
but
entire
was just part of
concept of well, AI was something that came along at the right time when they were already having problems, though.
Yeah.
They very hastily did a SPAC in order to try to get some investor money back
that's the whole
because
thing. Yeah.
a lot of investors put a lot of money into them thinking that they were going to be worth something like $10 billion off of fun little quizzes, pictures of animals, and Pulitzer Prize winning reporting.
It's a bad time. It's a bad time for
yeah.
media. So also we saw the news about Vice filing for bankruptcy. So you know what? I just feel bad for everybody has to live through this. I have friends at Vice. I have friends at BuzzFeed. So I feel bad for everybody. I think we should wrap it up unless there's anything else we want to talk about in the chat room.
I wanted to
folks,
talk about
thank you
Control,
for the
but I don't
context,
think we have
Mark Dell.
time.
Oh, Control is good.
Control is very good.
So
You
yeah,
guys can talk about
my like one sentence idea is that Control has done for mid-century architecture what BioShock did for oh man, I took a note of this.
Is that mid-century or is that just all brutalism?
Well, no, there's part of it is brutalism, but the offices are much more like mid-century, you know, like
A little bit.
like a design
bit.
office.
Although what do we spend our time doing in Control is destroying all that.
Yeah.
Doing to telekinetically destroy this mid-century coffee table.
But
Tired of seeing it.
like Control is doing the same thing for that style of architecture that BioShock did for Art Deco.
Sure.
Like it was a really beautiful presentation of some really interesting architectural styles. Really loved the I just finished it. So really loved the like really high color saturation, the oranges and the reds, and
You
just
should see that game on ray tracing, Ben. With
Oh,
ray
yeah.
tracing.
I mean, I played it on PS5 and it still chugged at like 60, trying to run with full
Was
ray
that,
tracing.
I
You
don't know
weren't
if that was
able to get it at
optimized
60
for
FPS.
PS5. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
I
would
don't
think
know.
that it would
Mhm.
be, but maybe this is something
hope.
that's really best played on PC or something.
All right, thank you, folks. Thank you all for joining us. I know we started a little late this week, but it was a fun chat. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, Ben.
Yes,
And
thank
you.
you.
Do your credits, Ben.
Okay, so this video comes to you via our video team, which is Julio Brantos, and I'm not sure if it's Luke Brooks this week, but Luke Brooks is often around here.
It is Luke Brooks, yes.
Hi, Luke. If you stuck
And
around
Joel
this long,
Chakatu for the graphics. Thank you, Joel. Yeah.
oh yes, thanks a lot for that, Joel. Especially like it's nice having those photoshops to
If you
for
like our
the,
thumbnails,
starting
thank
pane.
Joel. Yeah.
Yes, thank Joel. Okay, so if you stuck around this long, you know that we live in a world of algorithms better than the average person because you are a tech enthusiast. You're watching the credits. Good God. That means that you need to give us a rating on iTunes. You need to give us 5 stars on Google Podcast or other podcast platforms. Stitcher, does that have a platform for that?
Not really. Yeah.
Tell like 3 friends about us. If you watch this stream, you owe us a download. And we'll see you next week.
See you, folks.